we are here in this form, to live bold, astonishing, spectacular, opulent lives. We know God is the one source of all good. We know this source is everywhere equally present. We know we access it through the power of our mind. We know all that. And yet, there are still times in life where we get stuck. Times when what we're doing is ineffective, unsuccessful, faulty, non-functional, inefficient, or useless. Pick your poison. Maybe we aren't even cognizant that we are stuck, that what we're doing is not working. Or maybe we know it's working, we know it's not working, yet we continue to hold the same thoughts, thinking, and you may think something different, but this is my wake-up call when I think, oh, this time it will work right. Yet our thoughts still continue to produce the same outcomes. We need not only a wake-up call, but a more dynamic process of stimulation and engagement of our mind. Now, I can tell you from personal experience that there are times that we need to be provoked into a new way for achieving a desired outcome. The title of our talk this morning is Tame a Tiger, Claim a Calm. The tiger, of course, is in reference to anything and everything that holds us back from experience that's spectacular in life. So how do we tame those tigers? We may need to get pretty creative to come up with ideas to switch old habits to new, exciting ways of being. There's a book by Rod Judkins called The Art of Creative Thinking, 89 Ways to See Things Differently. And in this book he states, creative thinking, which is a science of mind principle, is about vision, awareness, and expression. The creative mind explores whatever it is fascinated by, rather than build up an armory of skills. Whatever we are fascinated by. So Rod tells a story in the book about Sir Richard Branson, who's an English business magnate, who co-founded the multi-million-dollar Virgin Group in 1970. It seems that Sir Richard had poor math skills, and he had already built his company when one day in a board meeting, his director realized that he did not know the difference between net and gross profit. So after the meeting, he quietly brought Richard aside and drew a diagram for him of a fish in a net in the ocean. And he told him that this is your profit, and the fish outside the net, which is your turnover. And Sir Richard understood the skill through the visual image that his director had drawn for him. However, take note that he did not need the skill. He could see the big picture, and he followed his intuition for how to build a large, successful business. His mind was dynamically engaged in the enthusiasm of creativity. And we too can activate our creative juices to overcome any apparent barrier to the good that we expect and desire. So here are just a few stimulating ideas from the author, Rod Judkins. And I want you to be prepared because some of them may sound bizarre. If you've already read the book, you know it. If you haven't read the book, you may want to, so that The ideas that we share here today, you can get an in-depth knowledge as to what they really mean and how some of them could be life transforming. Something said may provoke you into a new creative way to tame a tiger, claim a calm. We can all use more creative mojo. So here we go. Be mature enough to be childish.
Plan to have more accidents.
If it ain't broke, break it.
Be as incompetent as possible.
Doubt everything all the time.
Contradict yourself more often.
Be practically useless.
Look forward to disappointment.
Throw yourself into yourself.
Don't experiment. Be an experiment.
So I'm willing to bet that some of the ideas we just shared with you, you would not have thought that you would hear here.
In science of mind, we know that consciousness is all that is, and consciousness is actually all that we are. In fact, there is nothing outside of you that you haven't created in your own consciousness, because consciousness is the ground of our very being. And quite often we think about our brain taking on all the challenges of the world and the tigers that are assailing us and so on, but actually our brain has enough to do running maintenance for the body. The brain has plenty to do. Did you know there are 50 trillion cells in the average human body? Now I say average human body, and we know that we here at Science Center for Spiritual Living are above average. That doesn't necessarily mean we have more cells, but on average there are 50 trillion, with a T, cells in the human body. And each human cell contains approximately 100 trillion atoms. So do the math. 50 trillion cells, each with 100 trillion atoms. That's 5 quadrillion atoms in the average body. And the brain is silently, effectively, efficiently managing all of that. Now, I don't know about you, when I was in high school, there was a lot of talk about what a million was. And they talked about it would connected dollar bills to the end, and it would go all the way to the sun and back or something like that. It would take 23 years to count, 23 days to count from 1 to 1 million. I never really even thought about a billion until Carl Sagan came along. He said billions and billions. And then we understood the idea of what billions were. But a billion is 1,000 millions, a trillion is 1,000 billions, and a quadrillion is 1,000 trillions. That's a lot. And your brain handles all of that mechanism all the time. How often do you ever think about beating your heart or breathing or pumping your blood or any of those things? The brain just does effortlessly. Each of those atoms is traveling at the speed of light, and our brain is managing all of this rather smoothly all the time. So there's enough going on inside of you that there would appear to be little bandwidth available to worry about what's going on outside of you, like lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. You're a choice to live in your environmental chaos or manage your reality in peace and calm, like a well-oiled machine, which basically is what the brain is doing all the time. The brain maintains regular body functions, like I said, like digestion and breathing and blood flow, etc., until we are in a state of crisis, like, say, a tiger attack. At that time, the brain automatically shuts down all unnecessary functions to divert all available energy and attention to running away. At that time, we're in fear and panic mode. Stress receptors are on high alert and normal life-sustaining systems are disabled. Whenever we are in stress mode, normal life systems and functions are disabled. They're halted or delayed or even eliminated for a period of time. And the longer and more frequently we remain in stress, the less our body is working to protect and preserve us. We're in flight mode, not self-preservation mode. I read this week and I thought it was pretty fascinating. A patient filled out an intake form at a dentist's office in answer to the question, "What improvements would you like to make to your mouth?" He wrote, "That every time I open it, kind words come out." And I thought, well, the same could be said about a visit to the psychologist. That every time I think, only kind thoughts are let in. Or the same could be said about maintaining a state of status quo in stressful situations. Whenever I'm stressed, I respond confidently and rationally instead of reacting fearfully. Remember that we are always living by choice, and we're always living in consciousness. So I have to remind myself to tame the tiger inside so it doesn't sense my fear. As Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Well, I imagine by now each one of you has brought to mind your own tiger that you are working to tame so that you can claim a calm. The original title of this talk was going to be, we played with it for a while, it was going to be Tame a Temper. And I came up with that one because early on in my adult years, I had a temper. Now, it wasn't a temper like you typically think. It was a reactive temper. I'm calling it a temper. You might call it anger. And I would say things that I wished I hadn't, and I would take actions, reactive, that I wish I hadn't. So I practiced taming the temper. And you know, when you accomplish a huge shift in transforming a personality trait that you're not too fond of, a trait that has the power to keep your life in chaos that you've attracted yourself, and you finally realize it and you make the necessary changes, you can feel pretty proud of yourself, can't you? I found two main ways that helped me to eliminate temper outbursts and being reactive instead of responsive. The first one was I taught myself to shut up, say nothing. If you say nothing, you can go away, contemplate, and you have a free field to come back and say what you choose to say as a response, not a reaction. And the second one was from Don Miguel Ruiz's book, Don't Take Anything Personal. I found that every time that I would get angry, it was because whatever was being said, I was taking it personal. Even when sometimes it wasn't even about me. You know, when you hear them laughing off to the side and you think, oh, they're laughing at me. Yes. So, after a while of feeling proud at having overcome my outbursts, I realized that I had taken on something new. I had healed and become responsive instead of reactive, but I had become a little bit holier than thou because I could control my temper where I noticed many around me could not. And that holier than thou idea does not do us any good either. I hadn't learned a method for dealing properly with the emotions that I felt during the temper. I had tamed the temper or tamed the tiger, but I hadn't claimed the calm yet. I had buried the temper. Sky St. John, who is a minister in Hawaii, wrote, when you bury your emotions, you bury them alive. Wow. So, I tamed the temper, by tightening or turning the anger into sadness or hurtfulness, which is just as stressful and unpleasant and destructive, not only to the environment around us, but to us ourselves. Sadness often employs the woe is me, who's going to get on my page and feel sorry for me, is just another form of the previous anger. It's just quieter. And have you ever noticed that it appears much more socially acceptable when we act hurt? However, even though it makes us susceptible to people that will enable us and engage us so that we can feel justified in feeling sorry for ourselves, it is still not a good place to be and in need of revealing healing. So after a while of realizing this, I found new approaches to use, so I no longer needed anyone else to make me feel okay to be me. I didn't need to feel sad. I didn't need to feel hurt. I could respond. I could walk away. I could contemplate. I could be okay in my own skin and all the quadrillion cells of my being. Now our founder, and so I'm saying that as an example because, yeah, it took a while. I don't remember exactly when I realized that I had healed those parts of me, but sometimes it does take a while. And sometimes we get it in an instant and the change is just made. Good to go. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, stresses the importance of embracing one's true self and working in cooperation with the universal forces of life. This life contains every possibility, and it contains the possibility specific to your personal well-being. Ernest Holmes wrote, "You are more than you appear to be. Life is greater than you have ever known it. The best is yet to come. Our greater yet to be." So regardless of your tiger, when you reach a point where you recognize that what you are presently thinking into form is not working well for you, a shift is then ready to occur. Something exciting is waiting for you within your own mind. An opportunity to explore to the far reaches of your thought, your thinking, to activate innovative methods to live this life as you are intended. Bold, astonishing, spectacular, and filled with opulence. And so it is.
So it is.